here we are, building communities and what to do next. So you've just written a track, and yeah, you guys just written a track, and you've got some music to play. So what do you do now? What happens next? In this part, we're basically going to look at kind of what to do next. What's the next steps? What communities essentially are within music. And sort of how they form, develop, how they come together, how you can kind of build your own communities and sort of influence things how you want, make them unique, kind of push for things that you feel like the scene doesn't have, or just generally doing it your own way, and how you can use them for general positive change. So, music communities. I think I don't know if it was Rue or someone who put it up, but I thought it was a good kind of thing to mention. If I can find it, community is what turns music into culture, and I think that's really at the heart of it in music. You're not on your own when you do these things. There are groups of people that listen to music, that put out music, that anything to do with that is in a sense a community, and really a community can be any of those things within music. So it might be record labels, like artists grouping together to make music that are kind of similar or follow a similar theme or a vibe. It can be music events. If you're promoting an event or something, you can put on the style of music that you want, or whatever it is that you want to create. Or there might be specific events that you and your friends go to, and for a specific reason. General just DJ collectives. I mean, even if you just started like mixing in your bedroom with like a few of your friends, like that is in a sense that's a community, and that can start and that can grow, or that can be frozen in time and you can remember that thing. But all these little things are all communities within music. You can also have radio shows, just people grouping together, playing music, raving crews. There might be just like a group of you that have started going out together, and because you want to go to a night, and then that can develop and move into something else. I think the first night that I did was essentially just two different crews of people that went out that kind of fused together, and then that turned into a night. So I think all of these things, whether it's labels, bigger collectives, events, all of these things started off as just like an idea and a few people together.
It's a shared passion, isn't it? People just want to do things together and just sort of push that sort of idea,
Definitely.
make things happen.
Exactly. All it has to be is, like earlier we were saying about how you have an idea and you turn it into something else, and that's essentially what communities are. They're all just start off as ideas, etc., etc., etc. First of all, I'm going to look at like record labels. How to kind of release a track, how to get a track, how to approach labels to release the music, and so how to get your music signed by a label. So, I mean, Sean, how did you get your first tune signed to a label?
It's just through like networking, I guess, just going through like I say it's like social media and just sort of word of mouth from people, and just sort of working out what labels I want to work with, and sort of aim my sounds towards them, and then sort of hit up a few of them. And obviously didn't get a reply from a couple of people. Never let that bother you as well. If you don't get a reply, give it say about max a month. If you don't get a reply, just move on to the next label, and don't feel stumped, and don't feel like they don't like your music. It's just not for their label. But yeah, I think that the first thing sort of to do is just sort of get an EP together, send it to a label you want to work with, and then just go from there, and just keep like a little loop of labels in your mind, or like write down some labels, like write down your goals basically, where you want to sort of end up in the music industry. So I say like networking as well is a big part of it. So just try and go out and network as much as you can. Sort of go out and meet people. Go to, like, for example, come to Collective.
Well, yeah, because there's a weird story with you, didn't you? Say that Symmetry, that release, come from meeting
literally.
Break at an event or
So
something.
it just came from like working with like Collective. So I started sort of helping out with the night, sort of putting up flyers and things, just basically helping on the door. And then I got to meet sort of JDLR, and I got to meet Charlie Break through there. And then from then, I sent over a tune to Charlie like a few years ago, and it came out on the Symmetry Selects album. And then from then, I got in touch with sort of JD Lyle and got some music on Sofa Sound. So it's just about sort of surrounding yourselves in the sort of groups of people you want to work with in the industry, I'd say.
Wicked, wicked. What's the right time to give music to a label? I guess we were saying, like, if you feel happy with a tune and you feel like it fits within something, or you're confident in a tune, you know, that's as good a time as ever to, as you said, approach people, network with people, deciding what label. I guess also what we were saying before, like, labels will not necessarily take a tune of yours, but you expect them to take. Like, they'll probably something that you're like, this is definitely going to be perfect for this label. They might just be like, nah, I'm not interested. But then they might really like a tune that you just had no idea about. So I think it's just about sort of being true to what you believe in your music. If you feel something's right, then that's cool. But not getting too bogged down if it doesn't, because you might catch someone on a specific day that they're not feeling a certain style. You might catch someone on a right day. I think in music, with any of these kind of communities and people thinking things just kind of pop up when you don't expect and kind of happen. So yeah, as I said, don't try not to get too bogged down. But as Sean said, if you have a list of labels you want to work with,
just keep going with it basically, and just don't feel like you know your tunes aren't good or whatever, because they are good. Like, everyone's unique to themselves. You just got to keep going and find the right label that's right for you. It's very important, because I've had a lot of setbacks before, and it's made me feel a bit like down about things, and then had like a realization one day. You just need to keep going with it and just keep snapping out of that. Just keep making sure you're making music, because that's the main important thing.
The next thing, as an alternative, however, is obviously you can just release your own music. You know, if a label that you thought was definitely going to be, you know, releasing your stuff isn't, it's, I guess, easier than ever to set up your own label with things like Bandcamp and like distribution services like Ditto and CD Baby and stuff. You could, you know, with Sean's tune here, we could essentially take that song and upload it straight onto Bandcamp with, you know, get some artwork together. And if you feel that people need to hear this song, don't worry about, oh, the label that I wanted won't put it out. You can, you know, you can do it yourself, really. And obviously there's costs and benefits to it, because you know, the bigger the label there is, the more people there'll be working there, the more people that will be able to focus on artwork and promo. So you can just write stuff. You know, it's always good to have that kind of label family backing you if you can. But then on the flip side, you are giving someone 50% or whatever it is of the rights to your track, and they will have, you know, so if you're releasing on a label, it has to be worth 50%, like half of what you've done. It has to be worth them kind of having that forever, or however long the term is. So it's all about kind of weighing it up. But generally in this day and age, you know, if you really want to get the music out and you feel like you've got some people that will buy it and you have a direction, and especially if you're more hands-on and you don't mind getting involved in all this other stuff, then it's possible to do that. As I said, yeah, you can, you know, if you can get some artwork together, something simple, as I said, like Ditto and these smaller places can distribute music pretty easily, as in, by I say that is they'll have links to like Beatport and Juno, and you know, there might be a list of all the places, and you can just kind of tick the boxes of all the different places you want it to be delivered to. Spotify, make sure it's done on the right day, and it's possible to just do that stuff for yourself. Again, obviously, you've got to do it on your own. You would have to do everything unless you know, have a friend who's going to help you out, or you're going to pay someone to do it. But yeah, you promo campaign, essentially, you want the artwork, the distribution, you want it to hit the stores at the right time. You want DJs to be playing it, people to be playing it out, so they, you know that people know that it's happening, that the tune is out there. And you might want to talk to some blogs. You might want to get some features on specific channels or things like that increases to other audiences. But yeah, it's possible to do this basically. But again, if you're more of a creative person and you just want to focus on writing music, then probably being on a label might be a better idea, because they can just kind of do that stuff for you.
It really depends on what kind of person you are, doesn't it? If you like really want to get hands-on, just get everything done how you want it, rather than like leaving it to a label, or just like writing the music, getting a label to sort of take care of everything else. It depends on how you work, I guess.
It's also the freedom to release things whenever you want, because like bigger labels, like I know Dispatch because I've worked there. I know Sofa Sound, the situation that is there. Like some of these labels might have their releases sorted for the next 6 months to a year, or I think 1985 are planning like 2023 or something now.
I think Symmetry does that like per year, so they do like they get all released in by like December or something, and then the next year it's just whole lot of releases going out.
So yeah, if you've written a tune and you're like, I really need everyone to hear this now, the label might not be able to put it out for another 6 months to a year. So
I had my Dispatch release was basically I read it in, I think it was like 2018 or something, and it didn't come out until like last year or something. So it's just it's a long old process, but it is definitely worth doing. But yeah, labels can take a lot of time because of the backlog of sort of artists they've got waiting to be released and stuff. But
so yeah, I guess that's it. In terms of like record labels, you can either work with a label which is already a kind of established company community with everything there. You can benefit off their audiences and kind of benefit off the structure which they've got in place. Or if you don't feel like anything represents you or does what you want to do, you can do it by yourself, build up your own kind of crew community. You might have a few friends who produce and you're like, I want people to hear this. You can just be like, all right, I'm going to put their music out myself. I'm going to get this stuff together. You know, you can kind of, it's better than ever to take it into your own hands now with a lot of labels doing digital releases. You know, vinyl can take like, I don't know, 6 months to a year or something to put out. And so back in, 15, 20 years ago, you had to have a vinyl release. You don't need any of that stuff now. You can just kind of artwork, get it out.
Yeah, literally, it's quite with technology now. It's just so quite easy to do that now, isn't it? Really, rather than going back and like having to go to cutting house and like cutting a vinyl and like.
Definitely. So next is live events. Of course, where most people hear their music played, most people will hear different stuff. I guess not necessarily with the like live streamed events, which kind of happened, which may be a blip. Hopefully, we're not going to have to rely too much on just watching things on screens. But I guess events in general are like, places where a lot of people are gathering together to listen to new music and
network as well.
And network, exactly, to meet different promoters and stuff. So how do you basically play an event? Like, how can you get gigs? In the same way as like getting a release on a record label, you essentially want to be networking, approaching promoters to play at the events. You might want to let promoters know that you've got new music coming out. If it's on a label, you might want to check with the label, and if it's all right, send them your new release. You might show them mixes that you have, things like this. These are all kind of, I guess the only thing is maybe don't hassle people too much in the same way as record labels. If you feel like you really could be playing at a night, it's nothing personal if they don't book you for the night. It's just they have their own ideas and they have their own things. But in exactly the same way as a record label, if you aren't playing at an event, you're not doing anything else like that, you can just start your own thing in order to play at your own event. So the first night that I ever ran was about 10 years ago in Leeds, and I literally put this event on because I couldn't get any gigs. Well, I was pretty bad at mixing. I might still be pretty bad, I don't know. But I wanted to play out. I had some friends from back home in St Albans who I thought were the best DJs I'd ever seen, and I couldn't understand why they weren't playing. So I put on an event. It was Monday night, which is just not a great idea usually. But as I said earlier, like we basically just had some friends from first year, a big kind of crowd of like 30, 40 people that would go out together. And then we had some friends as well that were into drum and bass and stuff. And we just thought, well, we've got these people here. We'll at least have 70, 80 people who, either want to go to a night or will feel sorry enough for us to turn up to our night. And then maybe some more people. Yeah, well, initially, I think it was £2 before 11, £3 on the door, £3 before 12, £4 on the door, and someone still tried to blag me for guest list for the £2. Right? So I've only got £1.50, and you're like, for God's sakes. But yeah, we started up this night literally to play ourselves, to have a party, create a platform for our friends to play, and yeah. Essentially, you can do that today. You can talk to a venue. You can, you don't need to print flyers anymore. You can just set up artwork online, and you can do it yourself if you feel like there isn't something for you, or there isn't a showcase for the artist that you're working with that you believe in. Another idea is gig swaps. This is something we did a bit when we were in Leeds. Like, you'd talk to promoters in different cities. Like, so I used to talk to friends that were in Sheffield, and I think it was like Lancaster, and maybe there was someone in Birmingham. And basically, there will be other people who are in the same position as you in different cities, and they'll be creating their own kind of crowds and kind of scenes. And it's not especially easy to just play a gig in another city. I guess here we've got what's sort of close: Reading and Oxford, Cardiff. You've got kind of Plymouth, Exeter. These places are nearish, like Hereford, Worcester. These are places where there will be shows, but it's not easy to just like play in another city before you've established. And as I said, gig swaps could be a good way of doing that, inviting someone down to play and then getting to go there in return, and you can start building a relationship. And all of these things, again, start from a specific point. Like, I think some of the people that I offered some gig swaps to back like 10 years ago, I think one of them now runs like the sort of main sound system and all the biggest drum and bass nights in Sheffield. Another one of them runs like the biggest nights in Birmingham. And then some of the other ones probably aren't involved in drum and bass anymore, but everyone is at some point deciding to start a night at the same time, and you never really know where these people are going to end up. So it's all about kind of keeping in contact, socializing with people, and yeah, that's a good way of playing at shows. And that takes us to Collective, I guess, which 2016. This was an interesting one because I just moved to Bristol in July 2015, I think, and then I kind of wanted to do an event and felt like it was about the same time with Soul in Motion starting in London, and we were like, oh, in Bristol there's all of us that can do things. So I spoke to DLR, and he's like, oh, me and Break, we're already thinking about putting on a night or something. Let's like pool our ideas together. And so we're like, okay, let's think about some venues. I can't remember. I mean, Crofter's come up pretty early, and then suddenly Total Science was involved, and Hydro and Kyo and Mako, and it's just sort of like suddenly all of these people were kind of had the same idea in the head, the same thing that we wanted to do, and that's kind of where it started, I guess. The ethos, what was our ethos was essentially, we want a good sound system, we want a venue which is like relaxed and not just like intense, but can be quite sociable. We all share the kind of similar music policy, and we want to be able to like see people every month and stuff. And to be honest, there was no like indication that this could have worked really. I think we're quite fortunate that it has. Obviously, people like Break and DLR, Total Science, if you put them on flyers, that's obviously very helpful. I'm not expecting anyone else is suddenly going to form a crew of just all of these well-known artists straight away, but there was no certainty that it was ever going to work. Essentially, it was just people that wanted to put on music, wanted to do things together, and it's kind of just developed from there. And there's no reason that anyone else in Bristol or any other city couldn't just set up something which they believe in and keep it rolling and kind of see where it goes. So yeah, that's kind of it in terms of events, how you can play, like how you can kind of do it yourself, how you can set it up, and again, like another music community which will form from something. I think another interesting thing was when I was in Leeds, I think there was a night called Vagabonds, which I worked at. It was like the first introduction I had to anything, and I think someone asked me to sell tickets there once, and then I didn't really know much about it, but from there it's like two of the guys or three of the guys who were running that were directors for Outlook Festival, and from the people that I started off doing selling tickets to, one of them's like a big artist manager with like rock bands now. Another one works for like a major label. Another one's a DJ called Dan Shake, who's like quite a big house and techno artist. Another one is also a big house and techno artist, and it's sort of like all of these people who are kind of coming together at the same time just to do something really simple like sell tickets. You never really know what their next steps or what your next steps are going to be. So I guess staying true to like that community, if something feels right, you don't need to look at whether other people are doing this or not. If it feels right, then that's kind of the most important thing with events, and things will just develop, like, and you won't really expect it. So once you've built a community as such, or once you're part of something that's growing, whether it be a record label, an event, what can you do with this audience now that you've got it? And we've got DLR, who has come through and said a few words which hopefully work.
Hey, my name's Jay DLR. I run a record label called Sofa Sound Bristol, part of a project called The Source, and also Collective, amongst many other things. In my 20 years of experience of music production, promoting events, DJing, running sound systems, and now finally running record labels, the community and the social aspect is something that has always remained at the forefront. In my early years when running events, we understood we wanted to build a community of like-minded people who were into the same music, but we didn't really realise the power of running a successful event for so many years until later when we were actually looking back at it. These days, I take both an active approach to building community of people based around the record labels I run, but also Sofa Sound has become quite an organic process. And again, I didn't truly recognise the power of a successful record label until recently, it would seem anyway. I've almost accidentally gained a crew of people who are associated to the label that make it actually possible. Artists, managers, creative teams, sound systems, promoters, and the people that follow the label, and importantly, of course, buy the music. In recent years, I've wanted to take a much more active approach at making sure that the process of building a community is an inclusive one, as no longer do I find it really acceptable to kind of accidentally build a community that it seems lacking of diversity, if I'm honest with you, when I look at the community associated to the record labels I run and the music that I play, which is drum and bass and jungle. I want things to be organic, but it's important for me to now involve myself on roots level to kind of cultivate change amongst young people, as well as building on what we have. My record label Sofa Sound has various ways of proactively being inclusive via a mixed series headed up by Holly May, which pushes to find new exciting talent. It's got a primary focus on female DJs as well as people from the POC community. We also work and donate money to charities who run workshops and work with children to inspire and educate within music. Everybody is open to interpret the ways of being inclusive when building a community. Visibly being proactive and creating change, as well as working behind the scene to cultivate this change in a sympathetic manner, is essential for a healthy music scene in general, which benefits everybody involved. Collective, which is a crew of DJs who got together 5 years ago, myself, Break, Onset, Mako, Hydro, Gusto, Kyo, and now there's an extended crew that surrounds the main crew that started the event. People like Ill Truth, Subtle Element, Al, who helps with the running of the event, amongst other people as well, of course. Collective's become a platform for DJs primarily from Bristol to become part of a community of residents and crew that run the event, work closely together to play music that we love. The event brings us together, presents new opportunities to inspire each other, work together, create music and moments that cultivate more creativity so that the process continues to grow and move organically. For 5 years, with a year of break, we had, for obvious reasons, we have been getting together to run an event, play music to each other, communicate and share knowledge amongst each other, as well as inspire the crowd to go home and make music to send to the various DJs that play at the event for the crowd to then hear again. So within itself, it's become a bit of a hub and cycle of creativity, which is hard to stop. This has benefited everybody involved on all levels, and we aim to continue to grow Collective in an open and inclusive way to inspire for many, many, many years to come. So it's obviously very important to me, the community aspect and building that community socially, inclusively, and actively making sure that measures are taken, education is there, and we're running programs and schemes and donating money to various schemes and programs that cultivate and create the opportunity for the music scene that we're involved with to be very inclusive and open to all different types of people, which is exactly the reason that I got involved with drum and bass and jungle music in the first place.
Cool. So yeah, I guess there's a lot of different things there generally about like what to do with the communities, what's the right thing to do, what do you feel like you could do with a community that you're involved in that you feel like other communities should be doing. Um, Obviously, yeah, you can use your label or your event to push like a new kind of a different sound, an underrepresented sound, underrepresented artists that you feel should be playing out more. You can use your communities to kind of support a cause if you want to, you know, or even make a political statement if these are things which you feel passionate about. Once you have this kind of platform there, it doesn't need to be just something to put out music and just play music at. It can if you want to, that could be it, but there is more power than you kind of believe in, even having a small community of people that kind of follow what you do and stuff. And you know, it's a positive thing that we can use this kind of music and the scene for. I guess in terms of like collective, I mean, I guess we don't really shout about it or mention it a lot, but a lot of the kind of profits that we've made from these events will go into kind of specific causes or charities that we've been interested in. I think less so right now because we have no events, so we don't really have any money. But previously, we were each given like a load of money that we were like essentially go and give this to a charity. So we each picked our own causes and things that we wanted to put our allotted money into. I think I put some money into music therapy in Bristol. I think we've donated some money to Mind and some children's charity. I think there was we helped pay for some equipment for one of our friends, Mikhail's wife, who works in a school. I think there was also the Chadderwood Miners recently, which is one of our members, Leishman. His son or his sister's son needed some kits made for their football team, and you know we supported them with that. I mean, it's not specifically to do with music and stuff, but you know we didn't feel like we should really be kind of profiting and relying on this money for us to live and stuff. We felt like we could use this for a better cause, and I guess we've probably continued the night longer because it's not really one person trying to like I want this and I want this. It's sort of we've all kind of kept it away from ourselves and tried to give back where we can. But obviously, you know, you can do this in whatever way you want, in whatever kind of section you are. I mean, other organisations, obviously EQ50 and what Dynamics are doing, what Saffron are doing, has opened up conversations now about like the gender imbalance in music, how it's been too male focused, how there's too, you know, the ethnicity of people is too, you know, one-sided. These kind of organisations have been doing work with their communities to change and make a difference for what they think. So they've got a group of people and they're saying, you know, you should do this, we should do this. And so something that they're kind of passionate in, anyone really with a community can use their audience to push things in a direction which they feel, you know, it should be in. And yeah, so that kind of brings us on to generally working out what is important to you in terms of like, yeah, releasing music and playing at shows, you know, whether you want to create an event, create a label, do something with it. I guess anything in music really is just working out what's important to you, what makes you unique, what are you passionate about. And there's really not much point in doing it if you're not really feeling it, and it will kind of push you in the right direction about what you want to do.
You've got to stay true to yourself, haven't you, within it as well. Do you know what I mean? Rather than just feel like, oh, I have to write music, If you don't want to write music, don't write music. Just have a day off. Like, it's always, everyone gets like, you know, a bit flustered sometimes with that. feel like the pressure that they have to write music constantly and always be like top of their game. I feel it's good to have like a day off and just sort of just stay true to yourself and have a little break from it as well.
Yeah, exactly. Doing what you believe in, being honest and true of yourself, like all of these things are important for progressing. And we've got a little video from MC Gusto who has some wise words.
Hello everyone. Hi, my name is Gus, also known as MC Gusto, part of the collective crew. And I'm sorry I couldn't be there in person with you all today to join the session. Even though I couldn't be there in person, I wanted to send in a few words just around this question of, well, what's important to you? How do you keep a focus on what's important to you as you progress through your career in music? Right? As you continue evolving as an artist, as you keep refining your skills and getting better and better at whatever you do. And I think when it comes down to it, we have to recognize what's important to us is music. And because music is so important to us, it means our number one goal for our music careers, as far as I'm concerned, is that we should be keeping on doing it. No matter where we go from a commercial success perspective, if we're successful from a commercial lens, if we're successful from a popularity lens, if we're not successful in any type of way, doing music is worthwhile for its own sake. It gives us a creative outlet. It gives us a community. It gives us connection. It gives us relationships. It gives us a scene. It gives us happiness. It gives us joy. And I think that's the key point. That's all I wanted to say, really. I've never been a full-time musician, sadly. I've been at MC for more than 20 years. In that time, I've never been able to make enough money from drum and bass MCing to pay for a life, right? We've got to pay the rent. It's going to be hard to do that. And over the years, at least originally, I did have a lot of questions around, okay, well, is it worthwhile me still doing this? Or maybe I should be making money from this. Or if I'm not making money from it, like I should stop doing it. Or maybe it's irresponsible for me to be doing this thing, which is just taking up my time, right? And it's not giving me anything. But that was wrong. Music was giving me things back then, just as it's giving me things today. And we can't let ourselves be swayed or distracted or be taken in the wrong path by some kind of idea of we should be doing it in a certain way, or we should be trying to be commercially successful, or we should be trying to make money. The only thing that matters is music making you happy? It almost definitely is. Is what you're doing in music, your work, how you're spending your time, your progression, is that making you happy? If it's not, hey, probably a good opportunity to look at it and say, well, why is it not making me happy, right? Is it because of the projects I'm in? Is it because of the way I'm working on it? But that needs to be our kind of North Star, right? That needs to be the thing to bear in mind. Now, of course, as you go through your career, you're going to be thinking about commercial opportunities, thinking about money-making opportunities, different decision points around kind of what should I do, depending on a range of different factors. But remember that music is fundamentally your thing. It's your creative outlet. It's the way that you get meaning in your life. It's the way that you get happiness. Don't let that get forgotten. Don't let that get overwhelmed by commercial sensibilities or feeling like you need to do what someone else is doing. If you're not getting fulfillment from your music, if you don't feel that you're progressing, like it's giving you something, yeah, change something. But if you're happy with doing what you're doing, if you enjoy it, keep doing it. And eventually, commercial success will come. And if it doesn't, you're still going to be really happy. So, pretty much all I had to say. I'm not sure if that's even relevant or comprehensible. But at the very least, it gave Alex a break. And also Jack from doing all the talking. Just want to say a big up to everyone. Thanks so much for coming down. I wish you all the best for your music career moving forward. And of course, if you ever come down to Collective in Bristol or another drum and bass night, come and say hi. Let's talk about this some more. Bye.
Cool. So yeah, Gusto, giving the realness, giving the truth. So yeah, I guess at the end of the day, it's just important to be true to yourself and be integral as an artist, and not kind of feel like you have to do something for a specific reason, not feel like you want to make a sound or you want to copy somebody who's done something. You know, I guess the main thing for this is it's kind of like, you don't necessarily try and be like the next Break or the next DLR or the next whoever and try and copy what they do, because really you're not going to be a better at making minimal tunes than Skeptical. You're not going to make better like musical stuff than Calibre. So it's difficult. Like, you shouldn't really look at those people and compare yourself to it. You just need to find what makes you happy and what you can kind of do every day, day in, day out, and just build on that and progress on that and see where that goes. And that's a way that you're going to be happy. You're going to build kind of your own community on your own terms. And I think really, whether or not you kind of make money in it, generally, like with any creative industry, it may end up being a hollow victory if you spent all that time trying to make the next big Ram sound or the next big smasher. You know, when you get there and you get everything you wanted by copying other people, you kind of might be like, well, what was the point in that? I'm not even enjoying it. Like, there's not really much point. Obviously, if that is what you want, then yeah, then go for it, of course. But
there's no money in drum and bass anyway. If you want to make money, make commercial or go to house and techno.
Yeah,
bass is skin.
Exactly. Well, if you're making music,
see.
Exactly. If you're doing this because you want to make money, then yeah, that's, you know, go ahead. Feel free to enjoy that. But if you're just trying to enjoy what you're doing and you're doing this for that reason, then that's what you need to keep doing. So yeah, working it out. So generally, yeah, to conclude, yeah, we've looked at record labels, putting things out, how to get a release on a label, how to put out your own release if you feel like you want to do that, playing at live shows, how you can put on your own event if that's something you want to do. Obviously, you know, try not to hassle people too much for it. If they're kind of interested, then they will be. If they're not, then, you know, that's their problem. You can move on. You can do your own thing if you want to. We can use our community. We can inspire others. We can, you know, everything forms at one point from one place. Another thing I remembered when I was in Leeds is just before I got there, like the Hessel audio thing was all building up. And that was literally just because there was a row of houses in Leeds called like Hessel Terrace, Hessel Road, Hessel whatever. And these were just some people that were making tunes and going out to nights together. And that kind of started there, and then that kind of blew up. And then what they're doing with it is kind of inspires others to do the same. So when you've built your community, you know, put the trust and the faith and the belief in your tiny community, because it's more important than you might expect it will be. Figure out what makes you you, stay true to that. And yeah, all communities start from somewhere. You know, whether it's a label, a style of event, you know, start up something by yourself. Yeah, that's pretty much everything.
The world's your oyster, basically, isn't it?
The world is your oyster, indeed. Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much everything. If you have you got any questions, feel free to shoot, ask. Any of the stuff, if about booking gigs or playing at shows or record labels, if you have anything you want to know, now's your time.
Yeah, well, it's not really a question, but I just want to say, just talking about community and stuff, I think it's a really important thing to talk about, just to relate it to like why this has all happened as well. Like Rotations was, you know, I just wanted to basically get to know more people in Bristol, and I knew that there was loads of people, loads of my peers around me, so it's just like finding a way to kind of tie people together and have some kind of thing that binds people together, and then opportunities come from that. And you know, it is so important to band together with other people, even if you think it's just the thing that you and your mate's going to do and you're not going to commercialise it or anything. Just like building a network and, you know, getting people together that do the same things that you do is just such an important thing that I think can't really be overlooked. You know,
Yeah,
really, really important.
definitely. Yeah, exactly. Like when you're trying to meet different people and you put out your kind of stake in the ground and you're like, I want to do this. I think sometimes you're surprised that other people kind of believe you, especially in Bristol as well. Like we're super fortunate in Bristol. If you're in drum and bass or something similar, there's so many like-minded people that kind of on that level. Like you'd be really surprised about how many other cities and towns you just don't have this kind of feeling of people who, if you do something that's a little bit strange or a little bit different here, someone will probably believe in you and support you in that. Like when I was in like Leeds, for example, I essentially left because I felt like I couldn't do anything more than I'd already done. Like I'd stretched the kind of music scene as far as it could have gone in terms of drum and bass, and I moved down here and there was so much like demand and interest and like to kind of get involved in, whether it's drum and bass or it's like any kind of music. Like there are definitely people in Bristol that will kind of be on that kind of wavelength and stuff, and you know, you just really don't know. Like I've probably been in music for like 10 years or maybe more, and yeah, it's just it will really surprise you how just things develop, and they all start from a point of people doing this. I think I just seen recently that someone who used to come to my events in Leeds is like just got his 16th top 10 hit or something, because he's like one day was like, oh, I think I'm gonna write pop music, it's quite fun, I might see how this goes. And it's just like these things happen all the time in music, and someone doesn't just wake up one day and it's like, all right, I'm gonna make chart music now, oh, I've got my first. Like everyone who's come from any point has probably had a point in their life in music which has inspired them to kind of go on and do this and this. So yeah.